Hello, I am Commissioner Emma Darnell, Fulton County District 6, the Mighty 6. Welcome to Mighty 6 Conversations. As you know, this is a program that is about information. This is a program about communication, focusing on the sustainable community. Environmentally strong, economically strong, environmentally safe also, with liberty and justice and dignity for all. The subject for today's program is Fulton County's youth and young adults. What's going on? Very pleased to have joining me in the conversation today Mrs. Omatayo Ali, who is the Chief Administrative Officer and Attorney at the Fulton County Juvenile Court. Welcome, Ms. Ali.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm happy to be here.
We are so pleased to have you here.
Yes,
you've been with me at many town hall meetings, and you know there are two questions that you will always hear, no matter what the meeting is about.
Yes,
the first one is, when are the police coming?
Yes, ma'am.
And secondly, what are you doing for our youth? Haven't you heard that at every town hall meeting? It's very, very interesting.
Yes,
folks naturally are interested in what we're doing in the area of public safety. But it's pretty clear, isn't it, that they know that unless we give high priority, to our children and to our youth, then there are not enough policemen. There are not enough policemen to reduce juvenile crime. So we're happy to have you here today, not so much to answer the question, what are you doing for our youth? Because juvenile court is doing a lot. What I think they really want to know is, how are our children doing, don't you think?
Oh, that's why I'm here today, and I just want to
They want to know, how are our children doing, not from people who read about it, but from people who deal with our children every day. And you deal with so many children and their families who are at risk. Tell us a little bit about that population that you have at juvenile court. It's a lot of misunderstanding about that, isn't there?
It is. A lot of people don't understand what we're about in juvenile court. Let me just take a few minutes to tell you about our
That's
juvenile
what we
court.
need to know.
Yes, ma'am. In Fulton County Juvenile Court, our Chief Judge, then Chief Judge Bradley Boyd, decided that we are not so much going to be a court of punishment. We only use punishment when we have to, but we're going to be a court of rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation.
And that's what we have done in the last 4 years. And part of that is to let the community know that it is not so much that we want to detain children. Not just because they make us angry, they're going to do that. If they make us unsafe or they do things that will hurt,
that's beyond your control.
That's when we go to detention. But for the most part of it, we have to make sure that the children are rehabilitated, that their parents can take pride in raising their children. What I say to individuals is the parents that we have today were the children that we had 20 years ago that we really did not give a lot of services to. If we go about the business of giving services to children, then we can change the cycle. What we have in our community today is a manifestation of ills from the past and the ills of today. So what do? In juvenile court, we are not about decrying the system. We don't need to be talking about the system. We need to be in the business of what do we do to make sure that our children can thrive, that they can be productive citizens, that they can have the education they need to survive in this world.
I think that's what the community is talking about when they say, what are you doing for our children? They have something more in mind than lock them up, don't they?
I believe they do.
Volunteers have been so critical to the program of juvenile court.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have been one of the departments that has been very successful in outreach. And I thought that may be helpful to not only to public agencies, but to the private groups that are interested in this area. How do you identify and find folks who work so well with children, really, who have been hurt?
Some of the volunteers find us. There are people in our communities, in our villages, who just want to help. But we find some ourselves because we have an individual who does a lot of recruiting volunteers for the different programs we have. There are two reasons why we use volunteers in juvenile court. Number one, we want to be community engaged because it takes a village to make the kind of change that we're trying to make. Number two, all the programs that we have a menu of programs from having a full-time school to having a health center in the court.
You have school.
We do. We do have school.
That made me want to ask you a question, Ms. Ali. What would you estimate to be the number of children that are brought to juvenile court because of disciplinary action by the schools? Many of us are were under the impression that law enforcement brought a child to juvenile court. They had been, of course, they had committed, a misdemeanor or a crime, and I was just interested to find out when I looked at your report the number of children in juvenile court that have never been accused of a crime, but they were not in school. Why aren't they in school?
It's twofold. The kids who don't go to school and the kids who we believe their parents have neglected their educational attainment and they have not really paid attention to it. And so we have those children in a group, and those are the children that we're trying to put in our children in needs of services, not necessarily prosecute them. If you're not going to school, the solution to that is to make sure that we provide the resources for you to go to school and to see what it is that's going on in the house while the parents are not able to provide for the children. It's not always that the parents just don't want the children to go to school. It's sometimes they're not able to. It's sometimes they don't have the resources. It's sometimes they have more than one job. And so our goal in juvenile court is to go in the house because our goal is to make sure that children are educated, that they stay in the school. And so you have quite a few number of children who come to us because they are not attending school, because they're late, because they're just not paying attention.
Because they're late?
Because they're late to school.
And they're brought to juvenile court?
Well, if they're late to school every day or they don't show up, that becomes an issue for the school system.
That's a violation
that's
of the law.
Well, yeah, that's truancy. And so that comes to us too. We deal with that. Educational neglect of children, we deal with that.
How are you notified? Do the schools notify you when a child has been absent a certain number of days?
The school social workers will let us know, and sometimes the parents themselves will bring the children and say, this child is not going to school.
The parents bring them?
Sometimes, and say, this child is cut in school, what can you do to help me? And that's when we put them through our crisis counseling, which is part of our behavioral health. And so we believe in making sure that we can get to the source of the problem. Why is this child not going to school?
Why is the child not going to school most of the time?
Sometimes there's no structure at home. Sometimes children are just being children. It's not really...
No structure at home.
Sometimes there's no structure at home, and sometimes the parents are not there because sometimes they have to work and there's nobody to take care of the children at home when they have to work.
We see that often.
A lot. And so the solution to that is not to criminalize that issue. The solution is to see what it is that we can put in the community, like after school care, before school care, giving the parents the resources that they need so that the children can continue to go to school.
We want to explore that a little further with you, Mrs. Ali, because that's what people want. People think children ought to be in school. We'll be back in a moment. Well, Ms. Ali, now the young people have a new word. They call it outcomes. We called it results in my day. And one of the things that there's wide agreement about in the Fulton County family is that juvenile court has results.
Yeah.
you see yourselves as a rehabilitation, as a major focus, and you have results.
Yes, we do.
We see this all over the county. We just dedicated the Burkhead Gym Court to Albert Outlaw, who was a legendary basketball coach who everybody knew by the number of players that he put in the NBA. But when we had the dedication of that court, I want you to know communities turned out because Albert Outlaw had results. He required order and he required excellence on and off the court. So we hold up these examples so that folks can see that it does work. And I want you to kind of focus on the successes. I hate to use the word successes, but I want you to say a little bit more about how you actually get it done. Because a lot of people want to do it. They just need to have a little more information. Because you can't holler and scream at children, nor are they afraid of you. It doesn't work. So that's an outcome that I've kind of pushed to the side. I remember when they opened the police precinct in one of our rough neighborhoods in the area that I once represented. We went over that morning to dedicate the precinct, and they had so much graffiti and all the windows broken out. The fact that it was a police precinct didn't make any difference. We had never been over there before. Let's talk about it.
So what works, Commissioner?
What works? What works?
What works is for all of us to work together.
There's it right there.
The police department, the
There it is.
community advocates, juvenile courts, and all the interested persons.
Y'all are working on something like that now, aren't you?
We are. We actually are working with the police department. The first one that we're going to
You did last year, didn't you?
We did. We did an MOU, and we're working now with Fulton County Police Department to...
This is a different kind of police department too, isn't it?
It is, because now we're at a point where we know we're all in this together. It is no longer enough to detain children, because we can only detain them for so long.
And law enforcement folks are not trained to be social workers.
They're not, but they're beginning to understand
That they got to work with social
that we
workers.
have to work with social workers, that we have to put outcomes, we have to put resources and programs in there for children so that we can change this cycle around. We understand that we have to educate the children who have been displaced from the traditional school
You were
setting.
telling us about that.
Yes, ma'am. So what we do in juvenile court is if a child has been displaced from the traditional school setting, which means the child has been suspended or expelled before the age of 16, if they are court involved, they have an opportunity to go through our school, which we call LEAP, which is a leadership program where we do GED training. We started the school in September.
Training. GED training.
We did GED
Some
training.
kind of relationship between that training and antisocial behavior, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have a lot of high school graduates down there, do you?
When they come to us, they will get their GED. It might take
But
a
I'm
minute.
saying when they come to you, though,
Oh, no, they do not have high school.
they don't have that high school.
No, they have been
They
displaced.
don't have a skill they can get a job with.
No, they do not.
These are not the children that are in the jail.
No, they do not.
The children who finish high school get some kind of skill. You don't see them too much, do
No,
you?
we do not. The ones we see are the ones who have been displaced, who do not have the skills to get a job.
Investing then in the quality education of children,
Yes, ma'am.
whether by the schools or by the government, Fulton County with the schools, that's a pretty good investment, isn't it?
It is a good investment, and I'm just very happy to see the county manager's office is investing in this along with us. We have been instructed to work with the youth department to create a collaboration. So the youth department is going to be at the forefront of preventing children from
You
coming.
have a lot of classrooms down at your court, don't you?
We are just starting the second classroom.
It
Commissioner.
looks like it.
We just started the second one. The first one is for the kids who are ready to take the GED. But what a lot of people don't understand is when our kids come to us, they come at different grade levels. Some of them cannot. They could be 16.
They can't read.
They cannot read, but we don't have a problem with that. There's a classroom that we can put all those children who are not ready to take the GED.
That's because you're about rehabilitation.
We don't have a choice. I don't know that we have a choice because we cannot continue to detain them because detention doesn't work. Statistics show that when you detain
Not
children,
a good result.
it doesn't, zero results. They get to re-offend again. And with what we do in juvenile
All you're
court,
going to do is see them again and again for the next 10 years.
absolutely. But when we send them through the schools, and when we have tutorials on Saturday, and when they do yoga Saturday morning, or they play chess with us on Friday morning, they are not likely to come back. And that is our goal in juvenile court, to make sure that everything that we do, that we are in the business of rehabilitating children. Now, punishment is going to be reserved for the ones that it's just nothing we can do.
Nothing you can do. We've gone too far.
They've gone too far. But Commissioner, that
particularly when they, have been arrested for misdemeanors and felonies. But you're about rehabilitation.
We're about rehabilitation.
We're about prevention.
We're about putting children back in the community to be productive citizens. We're about reuniting families. We're about giving the parents the pride to take care of their children. We have a 3-generational approach in juvenile court. We're beginning to encourage our grandparents to join us.
They talk to me about it all the time.
Yes.
They're the ones the most concerned.
They are.
Among the most concerned. Parents are too.
And we have a lot of grandparents coming to meetings once a month in juvenile court. And they fill in the gap that's left, the void.
They want to know how to do it.
And they're doing a good job. They're doing a good job. They come when it's cold. They come when it's hot. And because of them, we have gotten...
weather doesn't make any difference.
It doesn't make any difference to them. They still show up.
Weather doesn't mean a thing.
They still show up every single time we ask them. So if we can have a 3-generational approach in our court, where we are getting the village bigger and bigger, we think we're going to even get better results in 2018.
Well, that is certainly very, very important information to us, Mrs. Ali, because what you have done is to outline what it really takes to have results in this area. And we are looking forward to hearing more about this project that you are doing, along with community development, with the arts, with the courts, with the others, because we've got to come together, you said.
Yeah, we don't have a choice.
We've got to come together in order to get this done. Thank you so very much, and we want to just acknowledge the outstanding work of the Chief Judge and all of those who are working with you to get this job done.
Thank you so much for having us, Commissioner Darnell.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
You'll be back.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll be back in a moment with closing thoughts. Stay with us. Thank you. What are we doing about Fulton's youth and young adults? We've heard one answer today, and there are so many of you out there who could answer in the same way as we heard from Mrs. Ali today. Character, community, coordination. That's how you do it. It still takes a village, my friend. A village that cares. Character. Children are not very good at listening, but they're very good at watching. Thank you so very, very much for joining us today. We look forward to working together with you today and every day to save our children. To learn more about today's conversation, contact me at 404-612-8222. That's 404-612-8222. You can also contact me at Darnell at FultonCountyGA.gov, and also connect with me on Facebook or Twitter.